Johannes, welcome to the Commerce Talks podcast. Today we talk about elevators and a bit more how to sell, buy, maintain elevators. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and KONE?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here. So I'm Johannes Rastas, and I'm the head of Services and Solutions R&D at KONE. And KONE as a company, we are one of the global leaders in the elevators and escalator industry. And our mission is to improve the flow of urban life, meaning that making sure that the buildings of today and the future are nice places to work and live, and ensure that these micro journeys that millions and millions of our customers are doing every day are smooth and seamless and safe. And actually, we are moving more than 1 billion people every day, so that's our global scale.
1 billion different people every day, or if I use an elevator like twice a day, I'm 2 people in your counting?
Well, we count it as 2. We are not able to distinguish people on an individual level, but a lot of people nevertheless.
Can you give me some rough KPIs about KONE? How many elevators have you built, and maybe some market insights? Because for me, as an not construction person, I don't have any imagination about how many elevators are built every day or maintained every day. So some numbers would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a great question. And like I said, we are a global company, and we are operating not everywhere in the world, but in all of the continents, more or less. There are certain markets where we are not present with our own brand, like Japan, but in most of the places we are. And like I said, we are moving more than 1 billion people per day. We have 1.5 million units in our own service maintenance, and then there are also several other or many more million units that have been manufactured by KONE, but now the maintenance is taken care by third-party companies. We have our own operations in 60 different countries, and we are working with over 500,000 B2B customers. And we have thousands and thousands of technicians providing field maintenance. So we are doing 80,000 maintenance visits every day to make sure that our equipment operate as they should and keep everyone safe.
So usually when we are coming from the B2C conversations, we are always talking about customer lifetime value. So in your case, it seems to be much better than in B2C, because once you're building an elevator in a building, it never, so there will be always an elevator, right? For the next 100 years. But what is the standard usage time of an elevator? If I built a new building today, I don't know, in Frankfurt or in Dubai or whatever, where all the high buildings are built now, how long do you use it usually until you replace it with a new one?
Yeah, that's a great question, and our business is really a life cycle business. I mean, like you say, when buildings are originally built, they tend to be there for tens of years, even 100 years, as we see, especially in the European cities. So typically, the elevator life cycle is such that, well, our relationship with the customer obviously starts already before the building is built. And in the big projects, if we think about, mega projects like skyscrapers, it may be, the construction alone can be, a few years from breaking the ground in order to taking the building into use. And then when the building is taken into use, typically it's 15 to 20 years when it's the time to really modernize and renew the elevator equipment. So that's the typical lifespan. And if we then think about the buildings themselves, of course now, especially with the green movement and sustainability, it's getting less likely that buildings are getting totally demolished and then new buildings built on the same ground, but rather the buildings themselves are getting also modernized, and the kind of the needs of the building are changing, and we see office buildings converted into residential and the other way around, and mixed use buildings and so forth. So we try to be there also for for the customers and property owners to help them to, optimize their building value over its life cycle.
I guess this is a growing market. Like you can use a lot of like interesting metaphors here with the height and growth and movement, but I guess it's a growing market because like many buildings I know and like on a global level that don't have elevators yet, but as like our society is growing older and older, though there must be like kind of new elevators built even like into old buildings. But from a market perspective, is there kind of a growth number percentage wise? Like if there's like, I don't know, 10 billion in revenue in the elevator market used in 2022. Is it like 11 in 2023? I guess it's hard to measure, but is there kind of this kind of growth statistics available?
There is no easy answer to that because the kind of a market development in different regions is quite different. KONE is and has been the leader in this kind of a new equipment business, which is the new buildings. And there, of course, Asia and China especially has been, the growth driver. But now lately, the economy in China, we know that there has been, a slowdown, and especially on the new construction, the kind of a new project starts have slowed down from their kind of a peak, what it used to be. But then if we look at then Europe and Americas, then of course this modernization is expected to pick up and grow quite substantially. And if we look at the cities in the Western world, if we think about how they're going to be, year 2050, about 60 to 70% of the buildings that we are going to see in the cities 2050, they already exist. So that's then the linkage to the modernization business.
It's a growth market, and you are a market leader on a global level, or are you market leader in certain regions?
We are market leader in some parts of the business and in some geographical areas. So we've been very strong on the new equipment business, especially in China and in some other markets. And then when we think about service, then depending on the market, we are there in top 3 or top 4 in all of the markets where we operate, more or less.
Okay, let's focus a bit on the customer for a moment. So because usually you're not so who is your customer? Is it architects? Is it designer? Is it like the construction company who decides eventually what elevator construction company will build the elevator? So who is it? Who do you need to cater your messaging for?
Yeah, so we kind of segment our business into 3 different businesses. So we have the new equipment business, which is the new buildings and the construction. And there the typical customer is then the developer or the builder. Then once the building is taken into use, then we talk about the kind of a maintenance business where the customer is then typically the building owner or the company who is operating the building on behalf of the owner, like, facility management or so forth. And then when we go into the modernization of the phase of the life cycle, then it's typically the building owner who wants to get more value out of the building by modernizing it or changing its purpose, for example, from office to mixed use or something like that. So we have those different customer groups. Then of course, we have a lot of these end users, obviously, that we are using our equipment every day. And then we have all other kind of a stakeholder groups like, architects you mentioned. And we also working closely with, regulators and city planners and smart building technology vendors and you name it.
And what are the KPIs you can optimize for, or you can offer? So a construction company or an architect would choose KONE over any competitor. Is it like cost of transportation? Is it let's say 20-story building costs like price X and KONE is the cheapest, or is it maintenance cost, or is it like flexibility? Or is it like speed of the transportation? Which for me, for example, there are a couple of hotels who only have like 1 or 2 elevators, and then like during breakfast time you have to wait like for hours sometimes to until like the elevator stops at your floor. There's like very different set of KPIs which you could optimize for. But what is yours, or what are the most important ones?
Yeah, of course. It little bit depends on the segment and customer type, and certain customers are much more cost conscious than some others, and typically, for example, residential segment is the one where it's often driven more from the cost angle, and then when you go to hospitality or hotels or skyscrapers or so forth, then the other KPIs are more important, such as the kind of the flow optimization. I mean, speed and the smoothness of the journey. But of course, when we think about our kind of offering and value, we like to think that it's the combination of all of those things. So it is the total value, the equipment, and the kind of a more technical KPIs, but then also our service and the relationship and person-to-person interaction.
And it was always interesting for me, like especially in hotels or in hospitality, when there's like this kind of elevator part in the building, there's like 3, 4, 5 elevators. There must be kind of a smart setup that these elevators learn where to stop and start like every day, because like when the hotel is empty, like or filling up, so it makes sense that more elevators are waiting downstairs. When there's kind of this kind of breakfast situation, it totally makes sense to decide to split a bit in the building. When all rooms in floor number 8 are empty, then it doesn't make sense for the elevator to stop there, like to wait there. So it could be like statical stochastics or analytics be deployed here, but it could be also like KI. So that's really a artificial intelligence case, right? If there's like many people on floor number 4 now because there's kind of a seminar, and the seminar has a break at 2 p.m. So 80% of the elevators should wait there. So there's like there's a better flow. So who's doing that? So, or how far are we in that area?
Yeah, so this is the what we call as people flow experience. That how do we provide the optimal passenger flow for the building, and then the vision is, as you explained, that experience then adapts also to context. You mentioned whether it's a particular event or time of the day or so forth. And it's one of our areas where we are focused on the kind of a research and development department to continuously push the envelope when it comes to technology and the experience side of things. And it's quite complex from a technical point of view, because of course depending on the building, but kind of predicting certain behavior is rather easy. I mean, in an office building, it's relatively easy to understand that when is a lunch hour. But then, for example, in a mixed use of building where you have certain floors, maybe residential, certain maybe office, you may have hotel on the top and so forth. So it's not that straightforward. And then you add the kind of special events or conditions on top. So, but it's a good case for machine learning and AI.
But how easy is it to connect? Because let's stick with the hospitality hotel floor for a moment. So when I leave my room, so I take my card out of the room, and I have like my 1-minute walk to the elevator. So and it's only elevators that lead to the restaurant or to the exit. Then it's possible, like in theory, to connect this information. Somebody's taking out the card, the door is closing. Let's the elevator start to go to this floor and wait there for like 5 seconds, depending how far the room is away from the elevator entrance. So is this possible?
When you leave your hotel room or your apartment, it's relatively easy, because then 95% cases you are going down to the lobby and you're going to exit the building. And making this connectivity, for example, with your apartment door or the hotel access system is relatively straightforward, and we are working with some partners, and we have APIs that will enable this type of experience in the future. However, our vision extends much beyond that, so you can imagine it the other way around. For example, when you arrive in the morning to your office building, so the gate on the garage already knows that that's you and your car, or maybe you come with the public transport. Typically, you have some kind of access management system how to enter the office building, whether it's the front door or whether you have turnstiles on the lobby. Typically, you show a physical badge. In our vision, you don't need to. You are already recognized based on some other sensoring technology, whether it's Bluetooth LE based. You have certain type of virtual access in your smartphone, or maybe it's based on imaging and camera recognition, facial recognition, or things like. But basically, you just walk through the gates. At the same time, the system knows not just who you are, but where you are going. Are you going to your own designated area, or your own designated net desk, or maybe you have a meeting room in another floor where you need to go to. So it knows where you are going, and the elevator is automatically booked and takes you there. And maybe there's even some kind of a guidance that is then shown in screens, or perhaps projected to the floors or walls, that is then guiding your way. And this is on a high level our vision for this kind of experience that we call as office flow. But you can easily imagine that type of experience being extended also to visitors, or then, for example, to buildings like hospitals. For example, hospitals are, I think, notoriously famous of visitors having difficulties to find their way where they need to go. So
that's true. Yeah, but just what you've described. So the entrance thing with a car or public transportation, identification with a key card, or with NFC, or with fingerprint, whatever. So all this, like, third-party systems are usually not controlled by KONE. But what I like in a digital world, what I can think of is obviously like a platform where you connect all those things, because one of the core experience is then the elevator. Because then, depending on what floor you're going, you can like adjust the light, for example, or adjust like the welcome sound when the door is opening. Though there's lots of stuff that can be built in. And then my question is it easy for you? Like in the construction industry, it's very, very slow. I've had a lot of conversations also already in the construction industry, and because it takes so long to build projects, then baking in this kind of entrance experience in a skyscraper project that takes like years, sometimes it's not so easy, because it's a cost and nobody wants to pay for it, because it's just like an experience and you cannot like differentiating with this kind of experience. So is KONE building or offering such a platform, or is there like in this industry already like a platform available?
So yes and no. I mean, if you think about the kind of technical platform and capabilities we have, so we have all of our new elevators connected to cloud through IoT, and we are building a kind of APIs that we are already today integrating with various of smartphone players and technology vendors, and we can talk more about that later, for example, in the context of robots. But then when it comes to specifically access and new technologies, whether it's, facial recognition and so forth, you're absolutely right that, penetrating the industry is quite slow. And typically in construction, the developers and so forth, they are quite reluctant taking, risks that, if these type of new technologies, if they don't work, they might, delay the whole project. And then, of course, it's, very expensive for everybody involved. However, then if you look at Asian market, where they are, in particular in China, like, facial recognition is everywhere, and it penetrated the market in a matter of, some years, while then in the Western world, we are still, contemplating around it. But of course, also the regulation and the, landscape around, privacy laws and things alike is quite different. The kind of a mega projects, skyscrapers and so forth are typically great test beds to try new technologies because, first of all, they are not that cost sensitive, but then they also have this inherent need to, stand out and differentiate and so forth. So they are often very willing to experiment and try out new things, and they have been great partners for KONE in creation of some new technologies, such as our office flow solution that I mentioned earlier.
In many new elevators, I see like modern displays. So sometimes those displays are used, could be like a 10-inch screen or even bigger. Sometimes these displays are used like to just to show like the floor you're in, but sometimes there's like advertising on it. I guess like as like the elevator builder, you have to come up with a solution how to integrate this stuff. But can you also like control and like as I'm talking with many B2C companies which are like doing all this retail media investments, I was always thinking, okay, if you can control millions of those displays in elevators and you know exactly where this person is going, though this kind of tailored marketing is obviously a perfect spot on this displays. I was asking myself, so who controls what is shown there? Is it something that is up to the landlord, the building owner, and there's kind of a USB stick you put in somewhere to update the information, or is it already in some cases connected to a platform where I, for example, can log in and bid for certain displays in certain parts of the world with a certain messaging? So how far is this?
So again, especially in China, a lot of these displays are used for this kind of a hyper-local advertisement, and there are some kind of a smaller companies and startups who are kind of specialized on this, but typically then they have been bringing their own display to the building. I think if we now look at our scale and vision, I think the opportunity is exactly like you said, that, we have or will have this, global digital real estate that can be used for different purposes, whether it's, marketing or whether it's kind of a local corporate messaging or messaging specific to the residential unit and so forth. As of today, the displays, when you look at them, they are often quite static. So there is the kind of the same messaging there, for months and months and months, because the problem, as you pointed out, who can update the content and when and how is often quite suboptimal from the user perspective. So we are looking into kind of a different content management solution through our partners, how we could then tap into this opportunity on a very hyper-local scale, but then also potentially global scale.
But isn't it like, so I imagine that you said you have like 500,000 or even more customers. Most of them, I guess, are like small apartments or commercial buildings. Like it cannot be like all big skyscrapers.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's the majority of the business is residential and individual buildings or small units.
But then my question is, so within like this digital possibilities, like managing the how is it people flow experience, a PFE? I think that's like a term in your industry. The people flow experience, like that can save energy, because if the elevator stops at a certain floor more often, that can save up to 10% of the energy, which is like one savings point. Adding displays which you control and where you can sell advertisement, it's like another layer of like cost savings. So the message, I guess, you can bring to the apartment and commercial buildings owner is like, hey, we would like to save some money for you. Maybe you can get some maintenance work for free, but in return, we would like to have the right of marketize your display. Is it something that works, or is it, or maybe I'm just thinking like too naively here because it's so hard to build something in the elevator and to connect it to Wi-Fi and to do all this stuff?
Yeah, there are some technical challenges, and elevator shafts are typically in the center of the building, within thick walls of concrete. So connectivity alone is not always that trivial to sort out. I think this kind of value-adding offering, augmenting the core product, for example, when it comes to displays and using them as an advertisement platform and so forth. Like I mentioned, there has been experiments around that topic in the industry for quite some time, but I think nobody has really yet nailed it, that how to make it kind of easy enough from the customer point of view and compelling enough from this kind of a content or advertiser point of view so far. But I think screens as such are becoming a kind of a standard component in the elevators, and in many places they already are. And it's not only about content and infotainment, but they also are going to play a key role when it comes to just the passenger safety, and then also for certain emergency situations.
But aren't you in the perfect position to expand into this entrance control game, where like if you're establishing kind of a setup that identifies people in an elevator or brings like a certain tailored experience, then you're perfectly equipped to own also like the entrance gate where people like identify, or is this a totally different industry?
To some extent, it is a kind of a adjacent industry, but we do manufacture, for example, gates and turnstiles, and we just recently introduced a new kind of a revolutionary gate called KONE Lane, which is more like a pylons as opposed to this, large area footprint traditional turnstile, and that has been, winning some design awards, and we have some pilot customers in Chicago who have.
What is the keyword? What do I need to search for to see this? Pylons? KONE pylons?
It's called KONE Lane is the name of the product.
KONE Lane turnstile. Okay. Okay. It's much nicer.
Yeah, and you can imagine this kind of, being an architect with a keen visual eye, and how you want your, new building lobby to look like. Then often when you bring this, traditional turnstile, then it's not maybe ideal for a, design-minded person. So these gates are, first of all, very appealing to look at least from my point of view. The footprint is much smaller than in a traditional turnstile. But then when we think about the total experience, like we have done for some of our lead customers, it's not only the gate, but then we have been also using projections to provide guidance. So there is a projection on the floor, say that, okay, now it's elevator 3 on your left-hand side. And that's also very nice for the architects, because many don't want to have this, big displays, monitors, TVs on the wall. Projections are nice because you can just switch them off and then you have a clean surface.
Okay, got it. And just let's quickly talk about the escalator business, because you're also like involved in the escalator business that many people know from the department store. I'm covering like the department store decline now for over 10 years. You see very few projects where like good new escalators are built in. I just visited the KDW in Berlin, like the luxury department store with like the wooden escalators. I don't know if they are from KONE, but they have like this nice wooden design, really cool. But I see it in the airports, but like for commercial buildings, so I sense that it seems to be like a declining thing. So because like all the department stores are going out of business, more or less, but maybe my view is wrong. Maybe the airport industry was always like much bigger, and now new big libraries are built. Like in Helsinki, the new library close to the central station has this nice escalators built. I hope it's KONE. So I guess so. But is this a declining market, escalators, or am I wrong?
Well, I don't know, and we're not going to comment on the kind of a market figures as such, but the business is, very, very healthy and lively. And like you mentioned, while the kind of a department stores are kind of going through a business transformation and in kind of an industry transformation of their own, then infrastructure projects are very strong. And if we think about mega trends such as urbanization, we're going to see, people moving into cities, and that will continue, and there will be, bigger cities. And I think, some of the projections show that, for example, in Africa, we're going to potentially see cities with up to 50 or even 80 million inhabitants over the next 50 years. So
Really?
obviously you can imagine that then there is
Cairo and Lagos.
need to move people, and escalators are of course very efficient people movers.
Yeah. Is this whole idea of like saving energy, like what I just described, like if you have like a smarter people flow experience thing, like saving some energy, or smarter escalators that stop when nobody's on top, on top, because like in old subway stations, they're like continuously turning or running, or
well, first of all, sustainability is key element in the KONE strategy, and we are definitely one of the leaders there when it comes to this kind of industrial companies. Energy saving is part of that, and we are kind of looking to implement energy saving modes to our equipment. We have also implemented regenerative drives that capture back the energy from moving physical masses. But then also, if we look at our kind of the total product more holistically speaking, then of course a lot of the energy consumption and CO2 emissions are related to the material use, and of course then we are using a lot of metal and raw material in our products, and that's something that we are then of course continuously optimizing for the benefit of customers, but then also benefit for the sustainability and global environment.
Is there any innovation I'm overlooking in your industry, in escalators or elevators, where you would say, okay, come to the next trade show and you will see super new experience, I don't know, way more efficient, or glass only, or I don't know, because like escalators, for example, for me, they appear the same like for like 20 years. So as long as the first escalator I used more or less looked the same like the one I used in Berlin. Now they have this kind of wood kind of appliance, really nice, but it's pretty much the same thing. But was there kind of an innovation level from an outside B2C perspective I just don't know about?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things happening in our industry and what we are doing at KONE. I mean, escalators, of course, you're right that the physical form factor and how the product appears to the end user, it's more or less the same that it has been for ages. But there's also innovation happening there with one of our customers. We are looking into kind of imaging technology based solutions that is then or identifying based on AI and machine learning all kind of safety related situations. For example, baby strollers taken to the escalator, and then the escalator is able to advise or even stop the escalator if it sees that okay, there is now a kind of an unsafe situation about to occur. We have also innovations in the kind of a construction side for new buildings. We have a rather new product offering called Jump Lift, which is basically a kind of elevator that is then kind of growing with the building, so you don't need to have a different elevator, outside of the building for the kind of a movement of the construction workers and raw material, but you can actually use the very same building very same elevator that eventually then becomes also the building elevator, and it's being built while the building is kind of growing up. Then we have innovations on the kind of smart building side of things. For example, with our partners and our API capabilities, we are enabling robots. So as you have seen in some parts of the market, especially in Asia, these robots in hotels, hospitals, whether it's taking a kind of a transporting, food and laundry in the hospital, or whether it's, transporting food in the hotels or cleaning robots. Of course, those are becoming increasingly popular, and it's not so trivial how robot can, navigate from floor to floor. So
it's
that's
true. I
something
never
that
thought about it. Maybe I
yeah.
need this at home. A small like KONE elevator that can move like the Roomba like from. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe
I
it's
don't know
cheaper.
your home, but for most of the people, that might be still a bit of an overkill. But then of
Maybe
course,
two Roombas will do the trick. But maybe let's focus on like a one IoT topic, which I mentioned already, like before we started the recording, because in all like the e-commerce conferences, B2B, whatever, like for like 5 years now, IoT is like really big. And in 50% of all these speeches, this predictive maintenance elevator case comes up. Imagine the elevator can send its own usage data to the manufacturer like KONE, and then the maintenance guys who are like, it's an expensive resource, like people coming to the elevator and do some repair or check or whatever, can be managed in a much smarter way. So how true is this kind of story that has been told now for 5 years on conference stages?
Yeah, that's 100% true, and this is something that where KONE has been the kind of a leader in this industry, and we are very proud of our predictive maintenance service that we have branded as 24/7 connected service. But basically, it is built upon the idea that you just described. So our elevators are connected to our IoT cloud to kind of a mobile connectivity, and we have a lot of sensors in the elevator, kind of understanding that how it is behaving, and also listening to noise and rattle and accelerometers and things like. And then we are channeling that data back to our cloud, and then we are kind of not just understanding the condition of an individual elevator, whether it needs to be kind of repaired, or do we then need to take kind of a preventive action to ensure that it doesn't malfunction over time. But even better, then we are using machine learning to learn from this big population of elevators and the data they are providing, and improving our predictive maintenance capability. So this has been a huge boost, not just for our productivity, but especially for our customers who then value that, the fact that elevator downtime is less than it used to be.
But does it lead to, you said you have like 80,000 maintenance jobs per day, I think it was. Does it reduce the maintenance jobs, or so you need less personnel, or you can do more with the same amount of personnel? So what is like the effect like on used resources exactly?
Well, obviously it helps our efficiency, so we can do, more maintenance work with the same amount of technicians, but then also the type of work. I mean, unplanned downtime is obviously the worst that can happen to our direct customer. And then when we think of the kind of individual end user, unfortunately, people still do get entrapped in the elevator. So those two things are something that we really want to avoid in order to ensure that our customers get the best service and our end users have the best experience.
Who are usually the kind of alarm button you can click in an elevator if it's stuck for whatever reasons? No energy, fire alarm. So this is usually connected to kind of an alarm station, fire station, or so. But is this like routed through your system, or is it like directly connected?
It little bit depends, country to country, because they are, this is often, regulated that, what it is and how it behaves. But basically most of those are actually connected to our own call centers, and then we can dispatch a technician or take some other action if that situation happens.
Yeah. How often does it happen, like in the life of an elevator, that it's stuck? Let's say there's like a building, 20 floors, standard KONE elevator, like in over like 50 years, which is maybe the standard usage time or so. How often does it happen? Like, what's the statistics here? I know. Just to clarify, I know nobody who ever stuck in an elevator in his life. So it seems to be like a thing that's not happening very often. But the button is very, very obvious because my kids always, when they were small, there's always kind of this kind of need, or let's click the yellow button because it seems to be the most interesting one and not like the 1 or 2 or 3. So it's always there. You're reminded that there's some potential danger, but I don't know anybody who ever experienced it.
Yeah, well, that's how we like to keep it. We wouldn't like to know anybody either. And most of the button presses are not related to an actual emergency situation because it can be, a kid just, pressing the button for the excitement. But then also, I mean, we are doing a lot of testing. So, for example, one of our standard maintenance procedures, while we have a technician on the site, we test that the button actually works. So the situations where somebody gets entrapped are, thank God, not that frequent, but it does happen.
Yeah. And is there any known case in the last 10 years? And because this is like when like people first try out an elevator, it's like they have the fear that it can fall down somehow. I don't think that's possible. There must be like enough like emergency things. But what is the last known case when this ever happened? Obviously not a KONE one, but it's like you can name competitors here.
Yeah, I mean the elevator from a technical standpoint, if it has been built according to the rules and regulations and quality standards, it can't fall down. There are emergency brakes and other procedures to ensure that never happens. And I'm not aware of any situation in an actual production site. However, we do have quite exciting, crash test lab here in Finland. It's actually an old mine shaft that goes more than 300 meters underground, and we are using that to test our high-rise elevators for many different conditions, also including to ensure that our safety mechanism procedures are meeting our high standard.
And next time I'm in Helsinki, I'd definitely like to visit this. So that sounds like an exciting. That's not in Helsinki, most likely, right? It's like somewhere.
It's like 50 kilometers outside of Helsinki, so it's close by.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I definitely would like to. I would like to see it. Okay, I've learned a lot. So I think on the platform side, like creating a better people flow experience, there's a lot of potential still because you have to connect like so many different vendors and so many different systems. So in theory, lots of stuff is possible, but the practical like delivery is kind of complicated. Yet, if we want to see true elevator innovation, you would say most advanced stuff we would most likely find in China or Asia because they're a bit more advanced. Am I right with that?
I mean, the market and the customer and end user expectation is different from market to market, and then it's a little bit subjective what you find, most advanced. I mean, I think how I'd like to, or how I often explain it, that in order to have the simplest possible experience, it often means that there's actually quite complex things that need to happen on the background that you don't see. But if you want to see where the greatest innovation is coming from this industry, that's definitely from KONE. But our offering might be then a little bit different from region to region.
Okay, so I have to go to Helsinki again. Okay, got it. Johannes, thank you for your time. Almost speaking like for 45 minutes already, which is our limit for this podcast. I enjoyed it a lot.